Well, let's get into everything because look, day 26 was a big day for you. It was your birthday. Certainly a gift in many ways. I'm intrigued because you had come in saying, "I know for the umpteenth time this game, I'm coming in being underestimated." From our perspective, it definitely seemed like as the final tribal council went along, it kind of came down to like it's Rachel versus Sam. Was that the perspective you were getting as well? What was sort of your POV during final tribal council?
That made my mind crazy because I'm just like, I'm here, and I felt I had a bombshell, winning immunity, finding an idol, coming in second. If Kyle weren't there, I would have had three necklaces around my neck. You know what I mean? Like, and I felt like if they could, once they found out what my age was, maybe they would have a little more respect for the game I played at, physical game, the emotional game, the mental game. I wanted to get TK out in the beginning. We got him out. I wanted Kyle out. We got him out. Like I push hard to keep my mouth going to make all of these things happen. And even with Andy, that was my choice. I was like not writing Andy's name down. So I had a lot of gameplay. I guess it's not the guy kind of gameplay that the conversations at Ponderosa, were looking for, in my opinion. And honestly, Rachel is a beast, and she deserved it 100%. But it sort of was hard to sit there knowing that I wasn't even a thought.
Yeah, what were the conversations like sort of after the after show? Because I would imagine on paper you're like, I've got Gabe, I've got Caroline. I didn't vote them out. I was working with them since the beginning. What was sort of that reconciliation like once you all connected and the votes came out?
Well, we never really talked about it. They were honestly like afterwards, we had the after show. And then when we went back to Ponderosa, I just felt like everyone was just so excited, just excited. And there was no more conversation about my game whatsoever. Like literally,
Mm.
other than they didn't know I was a pilot and owned my own flight school. So they were shocked and surprised about that. But there were no other conversations about my game whatsoever. I don't think,
So
I just don't think I was even a thought in their minds.
let's talk about this big reveal that you had at the final tribal council. I mean, you and I didn't really speak about you're purposely going in with that 45 as an age. So is that something that you had thought of ahead of time? And what was sort of your reaction to the reaction when you made that reveal on day 26?
Well, that was, yeah, my whole plan was to go in there and obviously I didn't think that people, any, 20, 30-year olds, if you tell them I'm 45, 47, they're like, oh, okay, she's old. They're not really focusing on numbers, just like with their ages. Didn't know their ages either. I just knew they were all younger than me. And I felt that they were going to look at me as just the older person that's on the show. But I
Mm.
felt if I told them I was 58, they'd have me in the grave and I'd be dead and buried just because I feel like that's the mindset. It just seems to be the mindset that you're the weak player because you're old. So, and I just had, I just knew if I made it final, I was going to make that big announcement. And I thought that between my gameplay, my being very physical on all of the challenges and being a part of the group and trying to fit in socially as well. I thought it would blow their minds when I told them I'm actually 59, I'll be 60 next year. Their faces were like, oh wow, they were shocked, but I don't feel anything registered. And that was hard because how do you plead your case if like I think their mindset was so focused on Rachel and Sam that it didn't really matter other than they were like, wow, she's older than she told us.
Well, a large part of your game were these really tight one-on-one relationships that you brokered. And let's talk about some of them because you and Caroline seemed to really fall into it early on. You said that she reminded you of your daughter. And then there's at one point where she even talks about your relationship and how, like, you're the one that's willing to get your hands dirty, maybe quite literally, where she's going to be a bit more behind the scenes. Talk to me about this dynamic a bit. Was it that push and pull that she talked about?
We were the perfect duo. We would sit and we would talk about certain things, certain people, certain strategies. And then she was the perfect communicator to go and make it work. Like she'd go off that way and make it work. Her brain, she's an analyst, right? So her brain was always, thinking, and she was the kind person that always wanted everyone to be happy and be okay. And she worked people very, very good. I mean, I give her credit for that. I was more of just the physical person. And, we were number one allies. Like we were allies when one time she said to me, if you feel you need to write my name down, I'm like, nope. Like I'm letting you know your name will never be on a parchment paper. Like I will never do that. She kept saying, no, I'm okay if you're sick, gonna tell people that. I'm like,
Mm.
I'm not ever putting that in the universe because then it could possibly happen. So no, like I had her back 100%. I had Gabe's back 100% and Rachel's back 100%. Like I would ride or die with them.
Yeah, let's talk about Gabe for a second because whether you realize this or not early on, you were obviously a very popular person in the preseason, and Gabe was among many of those people that's like, I'm going to seek out that woman with the blonde hair. Talk to me about what you two were able to figure out together, and also the fact that, how you reacted. This Gabe leaving was kind of like the first big hit you ended up taking in the game in a major way.
So, you come onto this island and you don't know what to expect, right? You're just like, okay, let's just see how we can get together and start socializing. I had no idea what to expect or how this was going to fall into place. Immediately, Gabe came running up to me. He grabs my arm. He's like, Sue, I've got you. And he said it with such determination that I believed him a little bit. Like you're like, okay, so that's good. At least someone approached me. I never wanted to be too aggressive because I feel like the aggressive people get voted out. So then the next day he's like, Sue, he pulls the reward, or, out of the advantage out of his pocket. That sealed the deal. I'm like, Gabe's my guy. I know he trusts me because if he is willing to tell me he has something, I'm good with him. And that's what solidified him and I. And then probably by the next day, Caroline and I, that's where we really started bonding. And I didn't want to lie to her and I didn't want to lie to him. So I said, Gabe, you got to get Caroline on board. And that's how the three of us started forming. But, Gabe, we had a relationship where we didn't spend a lot of time together. So
Right.
nobody really knew we were together. I would pass him or I'd give him a really funny look. I'd be like, I gotta talk to you. And I would say, Kyle's coming at you, or Tiana wants to write your name down. And I would always give him what everyone else, I told him everything, what everyone else was saying, so he could be aware and make his own decision. It's not me to tell him what to do. And just like with Caroline, I'm not going to tell anybody how to play the game. I'm going to give them the information that I feel is important for them to know to save their rear ends. And that's how we played the game. And I felt he always had my back too, whether he thought I was a wounded bird or not. He knew that Caroline and I were so tight that he had to have me on board and he knew Caroline would come.
Now, look, we got to look to the other side of that jury bench of the former Tukus. I got to get to the bottom of what happened with Kyle here because it seemed like it started obviously with he wrote my name down and it just kind of grew over time, whether it was the Tweedledee Tweedledum comment, whether it was like you talking about how it was always the Kyle show whenever he was in camp. So I want to hear it from your perspective. What sort of led to this rivalry developing?
So first of all, I love Kyle. I think he's a great guy and we are good. Kyle's a really good guy. Um, Here's the whole thing is that I won one immunity challenge. Me and Kyle were 1 and 2 for another immunity challenge. Then we were again 1 and 2. Kyle was the one person I beat everybody in those other two challenges except for Kyle, right? So Kyle ended up winning it, but if he weren't there, I would have had that necklace two more times. So I really had to push hard to keep putting his name out there. I felt he's such a good guy. Everybody loved him. You know what I mean? Like you almost want to keep him around because he's just so lovely. He's a good guy. And I really needed to keep putting it out there. One, that we needed to get rid of him. And the more you chirp, the more people maybe listen. You plant the seed. And I know they're smart enough to know we needed to get rid of him because he was such a challenge beast. But in the same breath, I needed to beat him because he was beating me. So, and then the other thing is that, we had the day Tuku went to our first tribal.
Mm.
Kyle and I went for a walk and we had really, really, he's a good guy. We had a good conversation about family and I'm a mama and he'll never write a mama's name down when there's other people there. So I really thought he was going to write down Caroline's name. I knew Caroline was safe because we knew everybody was going to go for TK. So when he did write my name down, I'm just like, wow, he lied to me, but he's saying he's like this good, wholesome guy, family man, but like he lied to me. So that helped me to be a little bit more angry in a way or more adamant to be like, I'm smart enough to know to wait for when the time is right. I wasn't going to go crazy, and I wasn't talking about Kyle 24/7. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like there was more going on than just Kyle, but when they got me good.
I did want to bring up Rachel for a hot second because obviously once Caroline and Gabe had gone, she was the person you really locked down with until the end. I'm curious, if you had won that final immunity challenge, would you have taken Rachel to the end with you, or would you have sent her into fire?
So here's the thing, setting her into fire, if she won fire, she would absolutely just take it completely without question. But yeah, the smarter idea would have been like to take like Teeny in and try to get rid of Sam or Rachel.
Interesting. I do want to bring up, speaking of you making the final three, so obviously Jeff threw out some very great stats during the after show, but I don't know if you realize this, Sue. You have made Survivor history. With you revealing that you were 59, you were the oldest person to ever make the final tribal council in U.S. Survivor history.
Oh my God. I was at a watch party last night. It was so loud and we couldn't hear anything. So I didn't, my daughter texted me something this morning, but didn't even know.
Yeah, so what is sort of your reaction to that? Because it's obviously something that you and I even talked about, before and after you were on this season, you talked about it on the show that you wanted to do this partially as like kind of a way to show your generation that you still have the ability to go up here and run with and sometimes even beat out these people that are, half your age. How do you look back on this history-making experience you were able to do?
I've never been so proud of myself. There's, and I'm going to be 60 next year. So you're not looking at what life you have left to live. Sometimes you're just like, wow, I'm closer to death, So I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, and when you're this age, this is what your brain just goes that direction. And I'm like I just want to inspire people that there's so much more of life to live. You don't, your age is just a number. And the fact that I could go out there, compete on Survivor, have records. I'm the oldest person to ever win an immunity challenge, and now I'm the oldest person to ever make the final tribal. Like that says a lot for my generation. And I've had so many people reach out telling me they're inspired and now their mom is gonna go, she's going and doing stuff, or people are telling me that I've inspired them to just try new things or get up and start working out or just live life a little bit more. And that was my whole goal. You know what I mean? Like it's amazing to me. And this was my goal, was just to like, I feel like the show is always such the younger generation. But there's a whole bunch of badass older people out there and they need to know they're badass, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, and count yourself among them. It was an
Thank you.
absolutely badass game that you were able to play. And thank you so much, Sue, for not only everything you brought to the season, but for everything you brought in our conversation
Thanks,
today.
Mike.
Again, you should have a lot to be proud of, and I'm
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy that you're able to come back, that your family, both on island and off island, has embraced your experience as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mike.
Of course, yeah. All the best to you and Chelsea and the rest of the family. And I hope you have a great end of the year. Happy holidays. And thanks as always, Sue. This was
You
such a great
too. You
time.
too. Thanks, Mike.
All right, have a good one.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.